Hi there, let's talk about the books that I read in January. It was a 50-50 reading month for me, which means 50% of the books were under 3 stars, 50% were over, which I'm fine with. There are some months where I just feel like I cannot pick up a good book, so 50% to me is fine, I'm okay with it. Very rarely do I read a book where I feel like I just got nothing from it, and in that case I'll usually just DNF it, which I'll DNF a book in a heartbeat, by the way. I know there are some people that are like anti-DNF, not me. If it's gonna waste my time, I'm not reading it, but luckily I haven't DNF'd a book this year, which is a joke because it's only January and I read all my books. A couple housekeeping things. Number one, I have a bunch of notes for the books I read because the details start to get fuzzy after like maybe a week and a half. So I'm going to be referencing this. Number two of the books I read, I already brought back to the library. So I have a little picture of them, but I don't own them and I'm not going to buy them because the first 2 books I read, I didn't love. And it's weird that it went in order like that, but that's just how it played out. Next housekeeping thing after this video, I want to do a little book haul. I treated myself to the used bookstore, which I have credit in because I brought some of my old books there. I've just been getting so many books from the library, but me and my fiance are flying across the country so he can meet my dad, because we're getting married. And I didn't want to bring a library book with me on the plane just in case something happens to it. So I picked up a couple books. Not that I don't have books of my own. I totally could have picked up books from my own collection, but I thought it was a good excuse to go do that. So without further ado, we're going to talk about my first book, which is Ward D by Freeda McFadden. I know Freeda McFadden has a huge fan base. I don't think I'm her biggest fan. So let me just tell you what the book's about first. That's how I like to structure these. Sidebar, one of my pet peeves is when people do a book review and don't tell me the synopsis. So then I'm left knowing their thoughts but knowing nothing about the book, and like I don't know how to walk away with that information and like what to do with it. Ward D is by Freeda McFadden, and it is about a medical student who one night has to stay over at a psych ward. It's like one of the things she has to do in order to obtain her degree, and she's really not looking forward to it. We found out she has like a really weird history with her own psychological problems and with people in her past that have psychological problems, so she's just really not looking forward to being there. Essentially, she gets there, everything's like fine, maybe she's feeling a little anxious, and then the doors lock and she can't get out. And the story basically unfurls from there. I gave this story a 2.5 stars. First of all, Freeda McFadden, the way she writes dialogue drives me nuts. It feels very unreal, not like how people would talk in real life, which I pick up on right away. I'm very picky about dialogue. Her characters are one-dimensional, flat, not likable. There was just no depth to them, especially the main character. And if you're going to have to read a story through the eyes of a main character that is one-dimensional, it just feels like child's play. Like it was just so unenjoyable for me, and the pacing was fine, but I still had a hard time getting through the book because of all of those other reasons. Now, the reason it did get a 2.5 stars is because of the plot twist. Her plot twists are insane. I'll give it to her. For me to sit here and say that her plot twists aren't good would be me lying to you. Her plot twists are some of the best plot twists I've read in a book, and that's why she got 2.5 stars. I did not see it coming. It blew my mind, but the whole rest of the book, and then even like a second after that plot twist, unenjoyable. I don't think I'm going to read another Freeda McFadden book. I read The Housemaid years ago, and I low-key forget what that's about. And again, the plot twist got me, but like the story was not memorable enough for me to remember. And I read a lot of thrillers, so maybe that's why it's getting lost in like the jumble of my memory of every other thriller I ever read. Other issue I had with this book, by the way, I'd totally forgotten, this was like a huge thing for me, was the characters with mental illnesses were so stigmatized. I was so surprised to see writing in like today's day and age about like people with schizophrenia, the way that she wrote about them. It just felt very under-researched and stigmatized and base level, and like nothing went into it, like it was written by AI. It just felt very outdated for a book that was not written in like an outdated time period. We should all know this. You know what I mean? About like some of these mental illnesses, that they're very complex, and she just did not write her characters that way. And maybe she did that on purpose to like move the story along. I don't know. I don't think that would have taken away from the pacing, but I was very shocked, and I don't think I'll read another Freeda McFadden. I was just very disappointed, honestly, because everybody raves about her. I can't do it. The next book I read was a book called Nightcrawling by Layla Motley. I picked this up because one of my 2026 goals is to read books that I don't hear about on the internet, that I read because they sound good. And that was this. I got this from the library. This is about a young woman in Oakland who grows up basically without any stability, without a family, and the family she does have is very impoverished. She didn't grow up with much, and now essentially her mom's in jail. Her dad's no longer around. She has an older brother who's just kind of messing around and like wants to be this big star, but won't work. So she's working her butt off to make ends meet, and it's not working. So she turns to something called Nightcrawling. Can I say what it means on here? It means giving your body away, okay? I loved that I branched out and read a book by a Black author about a Black main character. That's also one of my goals, is just to go out of my comfort zone and not read about people like me. I think that's the beauty of literature, and I'm so glad I did that. I really do feel like I walked away with a completely different perspective about a lot of things, and this main character is so lovable. Even though she's making the wrong choices, like, you just want to be there for her and like guide her in the right direction. You really do see and understand that she did not have a choice, or much of a choice. I found it enjoyable, even though I think the pacing was really slow. And I'm going to be honest, the plot line was very loose. There wasn't really much that went on. So if you're somebody that likes an action-packed, fast-paced story, you might not like this. The characters were the best part of this story. And I'm a very character-driven reader, so that was a big plus for me. And I think Layla Motley's writing was beautiful. I just think the storyline was a little loose and a little slow and a little boring, but I don't necessarily mind a boring fiction, so I would recommend if that's something that you're looking for. Next, I read Maude Horton's Glorious Revenge by Lizzie Pook. This is another library book that I have to bring back. This book is about Maude Horton, our main character, who goes to collect her sister, who dressed as a man and snuck onto an expedition ship. She's supposed to be coming home. Her and her grandpa are waiting for her, excited to see her, also mad at her for sneaking onto the ship, and she never comes off the ship. And they're like, hey, where's, I forget his name, Jack? That's who like her character is. And they're like, oh, he passed away in an accident. And then they don't give her any other information, and it's just very sus. So she basically has to go on this adventure and figure out what happened to her sister and the characters involved. This story was so enjoyable for me, even though it's a historical murder mystery, which is so my vibe. I think that it fell a little flat. To me, it felt like day-old soda that sat out that's supposed to be super bubbly. And it's just like a little unsatisfyingly flat. That's how this book fell for me. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I don't always need my stories, like I said in the last book, to like tantalize me completely. Like, I'm okay with a little bit of like a more realistic flatline story. And that's how this felt. There weren't really any huge plot twists. There wasn't like some huge, aha moment. It was just a story about how this girl had to deal with the murder of her sister. I really liked this book, and I would read more by Lizzie Pook. Her writing was absolutely beautiful, so atmospheric. I felt like I was there. It takes place in, I think, the 1800s in London. It takes place in like old school London. So it's very morbid. It's a historical fiction. If that's like your kind of vibe, I think you would really like this, and I do recommend it. I gave this a 4.5 stars, and I can't wait to read more by her. And I'm glad that I picked this up. This was another book that I picked up because I'd never heard anybody talk about it, and I wanted to know more, and I'm glad that I did. The last book I read was Animal Farm by George Orwell. It's a classic here in America. Like, we all have to read it in grade school, and I definitely was made to read it in like middle school or high school, but I didn't actually pay attention. I'm 100% sure, and to be honest, I don't know if I would have gotten what I got out of this book in high school. So anyway, this story is basically one giant allegory for things happening politically. I don't really want to get too into it. Number one, I think most people know, but number two, I think going into it a little bit blind is good. It's a very short book. This edition was 90 pages. I read it in like maybe a little over 24 hours. This book to me was a 5 stars. I think it broke down a really complicated and complex political ecosystem into a really charming, bite-sized, an understandable way, and very accessibly, which I think is very important when it comes to talking about topics that not everybody would understand or know. The characters are adorable. I love these little animals. Even like the bad guys, they're little pigs. You know what I mean? So like, you don't like them, but like, it's such a charming way to write about such a heavy topic. I think this book was fantastic. George Orwell's pacing was insane. Like, I didn't want to put this book down. It never felt like it lulled. To be fair, it's a short story, but it never felt like it skipped parts or it went too fast. It was absolutely perfect, and I understand why this is a classic. I was so impressed. And I don't know why I was so impressed, because most classics are rated so high and so popular for a reason, but I was surprised even still. I really enjoyed this, and I want to read more by George Orwell 100%. Before we get into the haul, I wanted to talk about the book that I'm currently reading, which is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I'm 50% of the way through, and maybe a little more. I did not realize. You'll see this in next month's reading wrap up. I just wanted to give this a shout out because I think this is going to be a 6-star read, and I hope I come back to you next month saying that I was right, because I am loving this book, like in a way that I don't think I've loved a book like this in like 2 years. I am having such a good time, and I'm going to be devastated when it ends. So that's my current read. I think I'm going to finish it probably early this coming week. Next, I got 3 books from the used bookstore, but again, I have credit, so they're 50% off for me. The first book I got is The Hike by Drew Majery. It's about a man that goes on a hike before his business meeting. I guess he's just trying to like relax, and he runs into these fantastical creatures. That's essentially what I got from it. It just looks like a weird girl fiction, which I love and I want to get more into. Just like super weird, uncomfortable. I love a story that merges fantasy with daily life, and I've been looking for more books like that, and this just looks so fun, and I can't wait to read it. The next book I got is Sula by Toni Morrison. This is so highly recommended, and one of my favorite book YouTubers, The Plant-Based Bride, loves this book, and so I wanted to pick it up. Something about this story, it just feels like I'm very drawn to. Like I said, I want to read more books written by people of color about people of color, and this is a classic, and I feel like I'm going to really like it. I can't wait. I do hate this cover in this edition. It bothers me. It says Oprah's Book Club, which I hate when books have like fake stickers on them. I do wish I had a cuter edition, but if I love this, I can always go out and buy a cuter edition for my bookshelf, and I do think I will love it. I want to bring this to Arizona with me, but I'm afraid I'm going to finish it because it looks pretty small, but I think it's a very dense book, so I think I should be okay. The last book I got, I heard nothing about, but it sounds incredible. It's called The Safe Keep by Yeel Vanderwoodson. I forget where this takes place. Oh, in a Dutch province in 1961. So I guess the main character is super type A, and I guess her brother's girlfriend comes home to stay with them. And the main character just starts to detest her and get like kind of obsessed with her because she's the complete opposite of our main character. She sleeps in too late, she's loud, and it just becomes what it sounds like is an obsession, which sounds super up my alley. It's dark, it's a historical fiction. I love a dark historical fiction, if you couldn't tell based off Maude Horton's Glorious Revenge. I love that genre, so I'm really excited to dive into those. They're all pretty short books. I really wanted like one big substantial book to read, but I think if these are dense enough, they're gonna last me through the plane, a couple days in Arizona, and the plane back. That's the goal. If not, I'm gonna have to buy another book, which would be a shame. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I love reading wrap-ups. It helps me get an idea of what I want to look out for and what I want to add to my TBR, even though my TBR is absolutely insanely large. Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into these. I'm excited to bring these books back to the library. I don't think I'm going to pick up a library book until I'm back from Arizona, maybe, because now I feel like I have so much to read. I already have like a bookshelf of books that I need to read. So I think I'm going to take a break from the library, read my own books. And then when I come back from my trip, do my library thing again. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.